This is Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom, words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. Consider this your vitamin or supplement for your heart and your mind today. Wherever you listen to podcasts, would you please download this episode and subscribe to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? And if you could leave a rating and a brief written review, it helps others to be able to find this podcast who are presently not having any knowledge that it even exists. So if you could help me with this, I would greatly appreciate it. On today's podcast, I want to talk about a mid-course correction. Well, just recently, I got off an airplane not all that long ago. I had 2 airplane flights to get home. And I'm always amazed. I don't know that much about flying other than sitting in my seat and buckling my seatbelt. But what I have discovered is that continually on those trips, the pilot, the airplane, is taking the airplane and making mid-course corrections. You know, some of us just think they start the plane up, put it on autopilot, and it just, voila, lands at the intended destination. But you can get off just a little bit, and what seems to be off just a little bit over time, you can end up being in the wrong state, in the wrong city. So continually during the journey, the pilot is making corrections, course corrections. Well, we've just passed the middle of the year, whenever you may be listening to this at another time, and that seems to be an appropriate time to just kind of take stock and do a mid-course correction. For example, even though it may be earlier than what you would think, most people don't do a correction or a review of their year until the end of the year. But it would be good just to look now. Are there some things that need to be corrected? Some goals that you set, some items that you were going to do, some tasks that you were going to make into habits, and they've kind of fallen by the wayside, or things aren't going as well as you had originally thought they would. Well, don't give up. Make, like the pilot, a mid-course correction. It's easier to adjust while you still have time as you're working your way towards your goal. What would be some adjustments? Why don't you get alone with yourself? Piece of paper, if you're a believer, a Bible. Get out your goals, your dreams, your aspirations, all of the things that you intended to do this year, and see how are you doing. Take stock. Is it time to do an adjustment? Let me give you a few things that I think go into making a course correction. The first is just simply to ask the question, how am I doing? This would especially be true of the goals and the dreams that you have for yourself, things that you are trying to accomplish. How am I doing? And let's be sober, let's be diligent, and above all, let's be honest. How is it going? It's a horrible thing to lie to others, but it's even worse to lie to yourself. So just ask yourself, here are the things that I said I was going to do this year. I was going to set some money aside. I was going to pay down debt. I was going to lose weight. I was going to read the Bible. I was going to look for a new job. Whatever they may be, I was going to take a class to improve a particular skill. Well, just ask yourself halfway in, how are you doing? Have you really kept doing those things, or have you not? And if the things that you're working on are more organizational or family or business or where you work, ask yourself this question in this kind of a mid-course correction. What progress am I making toward the goals that I set for myself? Am I making progress? It's not just enough to set them. It's just not enough to have aspirational visions and goals. But are you progressing toward it? Are you making progress? Maybe another way of saying it is just sit back and ask yourself, how is it really going? Don't lie to yourself, as we've already said. Let's give an honest appraisal because it's time to make some corrections. Maybe the most basic thing you could ask yourself in this time of just seeing where you are is, am I sticking to my plan? I had this plan, and the plans sound really good the end of December, the 1st of January, I'm going to do this, I can do this, I must do this. Just ask yourself, am I sticking with the plan that I set for myself? If not, it's a good time to sit down and have a good talk with yourself and get yourself back on track. One of the great things that you can do during a mid-course correction is it's a wonderful time to remember something. Your plan is changeable. Your plan is not the Holy Bible. It's not the Constitution of your government. It's not the Magna Carta. It is your idea of what you felt you should be doing and some changes you should be implementing in your own life, and you can change it. You can change it for lots of reasons. One of those is that when you set up these goals and these plans that you had a few months ago, you really had no way of knowing what all was going to happen this year, what kinds of things you'd be facing. And I'm guessing for the majority of us, there have been some changes in our life. And it's okay to say your plan is changeable. One of the goals that I had at the beginning of the year, as I got about 2 or 3 months into this, I thought, I don't really want to do that. And the reason was that a new opportunity came along. And really, for me, the new opportunity was to begin podcasting. And what I wanted to do in podcasting were overarching the same kinds of things. And so I changed and rewrote that part of the plan and got with it and stuck with it. But I give you permission, not that you need my permission, but I give you permission to go ahead and change things. If you have more information or something didn't work out or that really wasn't what you wanted to do, don't just stick with it. I've had a goal since 1982 of reading 100 books, and so far I've done it every year and I'm on track this year. But one of the things I had to early learn was if I was a few pages into a book and it wasn't striking a chord with me, it wasn't something that I really thought I needed, I just closed the book and went to the next one. There's no sense in making yourself miserable. That's not the point of a goal. The goal is personal development. The goal is to be a better person. The goal is to make progress. The goal is not to be pure torture for torture's sake. And so the enemy of great books is just reading ordinary good books. So remember, your plan's changeable. You'll have new insight, new information, but make sure you organize it and you plan it. The other thing that I would ask here at the midpoint is, am I moving in the intended direction? When we start with our goals, they can be so large and overwhelming, we wonder how we will ever get there. And as you know, there's a lot of cliches and truisms. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So the mid-course correction is you have a few weeks, months where you can say, all right, I have done some small incremental changes. I've gone to the gym 4 days a week or whatever it is for you. I've saved $50 a month into an IRA, whatever it might be. Are you beginning to see that doing those small steps are beginning? You're at the beginning stages of seeing them really become quite large. Are they moving you in the intended direction? If it seems that it's going slow, that's okay, as long as you're going in the correct direction. So one of the things to say is, am I going in the right direction? And most of you are going in the right direction on several of the things that you want to do. And I just want to say congratulations. Way to go. Thanks for starting. Thanks for sticking with it. Way to go. A mid-course correction isn't just a time to chastise ourselves and to say, oh, I should have done better, could have done better. I'm not really doing anything that I need to be doing. Periodically, you just may step back and give yourself an atta girl, atta boy, way to go. You're doing the right thing. And though they don't make a big change every moment you do some of those small steps, you take them, over time, incremental change makes a big difference. It'll make an enormous difference. The other thing to ask, and I think is a good question to ask when you're doing a mid-course correction and you're looking over and evaluating all your goals and what you're trying to accomplish, is, as I'm doing these and as I'm looking at them, are there blind spots? Are there things happening in my life that I'm just sort of oblivious to and I don't see it as others do? And looking at our goals and looking at where we've gone these first few months can really help us to identify some weak points in our program and our plan and some blind spots. In one of my last assignments in the state of Michigan, we were having a discussion, about 3 or 4 of us, and there was one very strong, dominating personality. And another person in our group said to him, called him by name, and said, you know, it's good for all of us to step back once in a while and ask ourselves if we have a blind spot, or is this particular issue a blind spot for me? This person spoke out very boldly, I don't have any blind spots. And I immediately knew one thing for sure. He had several blind spots. Because if you're convinced today you don't have any blind spots, it's not because you don't have any blind spots. It's because you're blind to all of your spots. So this is what having goals and working along will do for us. It helps us to see what are the blind spots, what are the things when I was planning this out that I really didn't see that now I can correct. The other thing that this mid-course correction ought to do for you is just get out your calendar, get out your goal list, get out your dream list, whatever you want to call it, the things that you're trying to do, and just see, have I taken those incremental steps that I said were going to be necessary to achieve what I was wanting to achieve, and have I actually put them on my calendar to make sure that they get done? If your task list, to-do list, most important actions, your goals are not on your calendar, then your calendar is probably just filled with activity for activity's sake, or to do your job, which is okay. And if you just have a list, then you're just rotely going through and doing various tasks. You need the to-do list, the task list, and the calendar to be together. And you need some of them to be those things that you're working on for your goal. And as you do this kind of an examination of here's where I said I wanted to go, here's what I said I was going to attempt and try to do, and as you examine it, then just ask yourself this one question. Am I pleased with where I am? I don't mean to the point that I'm going to just quit and say, man, I did a great job, I'm done. Not that way, but am I pleased with the progress I'm making? Oh yes, every once in a while I deviated, and every once in a while something came up and it happened. But overall, am I pleased with the direction that I'm going right now? And only you can answer that, but you'll never get it answered if you don't ask it. You see, too many times we think of something like this as just an exercise in negativity, to criticize and say, well, I'll never measure up. I think there are times you're going to be surprised the progress you have made. And just ask yourself, am I pleased? If there's an area where you're not pleased, then you know that you're going to need to tweak it. A lot of it is just tweaking. Some of it is, I need to stop doing this, start doing something else. Or this wasn't as meaningful as I thought it would be. There'll be cases where that is true. But many times, just like the airplanes that I've ridden on in recent days, you don't need to change the entire direction. You just need to recalibrate and tweak and maneuver ever so slightly, because those slight changes, we still have time this year to those things to make a huge difference in your life. Now, I've given you some ideas of questions you ought to ask, things you ought to look at, and then ultimately, when you've done that, you've spent the sufficient time to do all of that, the next thing you need to do is you need to make a commitment. Go public, make the commitment. Today, I have looked at all of it, or maybe you'll do it tomorrow. I have looked at it. I see where some of my blind spots are. I see that I'm going to have to step it up in this area, or in these two areas, I am really pleased with my progress. And as you identify the areas where you need to change, where you need to tweak, maybe where you need to make a wholesale change, whatever it may be, really doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is that today you are committing to whatever that needed change is. Every one of us ought to take some time out of our schedule this week and do a mid-course correction. Hey, thanks for joining me. You've been listening to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom. Words on leadership, goal setting, productivity, and a whole lot more. I hope that you'll consider this your vitamin or your supplement for your heart and your mind. And in however you listen to podcasts, would you mind subscribing to Dr. Ron's Words of Wisdom? And if you could leave a rating and a brief written review, it would be very helpful. This is Dr. Ron saying to you, let's sit down and we'll surprise ourselves, I think, with the progress that we have made. And leader, you're doing better than you think you are. Keep up the good work. And until next time, this is Dr. Ron saying have a great and blessed week.